Hello, and welcome to the Superhero Hub. It's your boy Sam,
And I'm Matt,
and today we are.
opening the superhero files.
Yeah, and to which page have we befallen?
Cloak and Dagger.
Yep, I figured because the TV series is coming up, I'll drop
Mhm.
some education. Cloak and Dagger, first appearance. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, issue number 64 in March 1982. Created by Bill Mantlo and Ed Hannigan. Um, After a number of obviously Cloak's the guy who's Tyrone Johnson, and Dagger's the girl who's Tandy Bowen. After a number of additional Spider-Man guest appearances, they were given their own 4-issue limited series. It debuted in October 1983 and was a success, prompting Marvel Comics to launch an ongoing bi-monthly Cloak and Dagger series in 1985. Costume supervillains rarely appeared in the series, which focused on Cloak and Dagger's quest to end the drugs trade completely and frequently explored the issue of vigilantism. So right now, after researching that and looking at that, I was thinking to myself, really, it's like if you're an executive at a company and you're like, look, the superhero bubble's big, let's drop some formats, let's drop some ideas. Really, on paper, these look to be one of the solid kind of make this into a TV show thing. You know what I mean?
Right, because it's on free form and you got young characters and you don't have to worry about a crap ton of supervillains you got to work into the show, I
Exactly.
guess.
No, costume supervillains rarely appeared, so you don't have to. In terms of adapting that, it should be quite easy. Real world issues, drugs trade, vigilantism. The kind of pretty much. Think of it like the first season of Daredevil on Netflix, you know what I mean? Going around with the hand, the whole drug stuff going around, him doing that. It's literally that, but with two young people.
Also, I mean, if we're being honest, diversity is a big hot button issue now, and you got a black lead, you got a female lead in one show. I think it makes sense, probably, doesn't it?
Definitely. After issue 11, Marvel combined the bi-monthly titles Cloak and Dagger and Doctor Strange into a monthly double feature series, Strange Tales.
Hmm.
Though still successful, the sales began to decline for some time, which led to a new writer as a result. Cloak and Dagger's first nemesis was created, Mr. Jip. Yeah, so I figure in the 80s this was pretty popular. Obviously, the idea of that. Obviously, really, you don't really have that many black male leads of their own comics. I mean, you got to think
Yeah,
Falcon was really a kind of
he's
back.
a supporting character.
Yeah,
I think Blade, off the top of my head,
yeah,
Black Panther.
a kind of supporting character until like he had his thing as Captain America, the replacement or whatever. Black Panther, yeah. In 1988, they starred in Marvel graphic novel issue 34, Cloak and Dagger, Predator and Prey. Strange Tales ran 19 issues before Marvel decided to split them and Doctor Strange back into separate bi-monthly titles. Cloak and Dagger was then retitled The Mutant Misadventures of Cloak and Dagger, in which Dagger was rendered blind in the first issue, and her struggles to deal with this disability was the major theme for this series. Uh,
Oh, they're putting that in the show at some point.
that could be good. The series began to falter and as a result was cancelled with issue 19. The pair continued to make numerous appearances, guest stars in titles such as Runaways and the Spider-Man Maximum Carnage story arc, as well as starring in their own adventures in anthology titles like Marvel Comics Presents. Cloak made a solo appearance in issues of the miniseries House of M as a member of the underground human resistance movement, whereas Dagger wasn't really mentioned, so it's kind of like, was she really kind of like a part of the thing or whatever? She was just kind of glazed over. They have also appeared in various other Marvel universes, one in which Cloak was killed. Dagger also served as a member of the Marvel Knights. And in the series where they're all reinvented as animals, as it were. I do believe Cloak was a badger and Dagger was a frog. Trivia. Right, so backstory. Tyrone Johnson (brackets Cloak) and Tandy Bowen (brackets Dagger) met in New York City as runaways. Tyrone was a 17. See, this is kind of interesting now in terms of the upcoming TV series, how it calls it, like before it kind of happens, how it's very relevant to the issues now. Well, not really but like in terms of Black Lives Matter. So Tyrone was a 17-year-old boy from Boston, Massachusetts, with a debilitating. This ain't a joke. When I finish a sentence, this ain't a joke. Literally, for some reason, I'm struggling. With a debilitating stutter, and ran away to New York City when his speech impediment prevented him from stopping his friend from being shot by police, who mistakenly believed he'd just robbed a store. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's in the show.
I hope not.
Oh, you know it's in.
It's a relevant issue, I'll agree, especially in today's day and age, but this stuff can really be bogged down with it. I mean,
it can, but it's not in it on one of those like ABC like family things.
I don't know what they're gonna do, but yeah, it's a relevant issue, but a lot of people are aware of it in terms of you don't need to like shove it down the throat for the sake of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because as soon as you start doing that, it's going to turn people off.
But they will.
Yeah. Tandy was a 16-year-old girl from a privileged upbringing who ran away because her supermodel, multi-millionaire mother was too busy with her career and social life to spend time with her daughter.
Oh wow, poor her.
When they met, Tyrone considered stealing Tandy's purse, but before he could, a thief stole the purse and Tyrone retrieved it for her. Afterwards, they had dinner and became fast friends. When a naive Tandy accepted an offer of shelter from strange men, wary Tyrone went along with her to protect her. The two teens were forcibly delivered to criminal chemist Simon Marshall, developing a new synthetic heroin for Silvermane and Namaggio, testing it on runaway teens with fatal results. Which kind of ties into the kind of Netflix kind of thing, really. That'd fit in quite well there. Johnson and Bowen somehow survived the injections of the drug and they fled. During their escape, the drug turned them into super-powered beings. Tyrone found himself engulfed in darkness and seized by a strange hunger that eased in the presence of Tandy glowing in a brilliant light. Trying to hide his newly shadowy appearance in a makeshift cloak, Tyrone began absorbing Marshall's thugs into his darkness, while Tandy struck them down with daggers of light. The two teens dubbed themselves Cloak and Dagger and declared war on drug crime, combating dealers and helping runaway children. During their travels around the world, Dagger was briefly reunited with a father who had become a guru of sorts in India. He also developed an ability to manipulate his personal light, just as Tandy did. However, he used it as a form of control over others to increase his own power to the point of seemingly killing Tyrone, who had interfered with his plans. Cloak and Dagger opposed him and flung himself into Cloak's portal, which is a portal to the Dark Force dimension. Later it was revealed Despair had manipulated these events from behind the scenes. Despair is kind of who inadvertently gave him their powers. He's a demon and a fear lord who has also come up against Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider, Man-Thing, Cyclops, the Juggernaut, Doctor Strange, and the New Avengers. Cloak and Dagger became vigilantes and hunted and eventually killed Simon Marshall and his drug-dealing henchmen responsible for activating their powers. They first encountered Spider-Man during these events. They next murdered Silvermane in revenge and battled his reanimated cyborg form. So they don't pull their punches, as it were. They are willing to kill. So.
Yeah, and see, that's something I question. But it's difficult. I don't know what this. We don't have like ABC Family or whatever over here. But you call it ABC Family. Clearly, you're a family thing. So with it being renamed, would they do that?
Well,
You know,
it's really the big thing. They have to go into the. I mean, really.
But would you have them kill? Over here, a family show is Doctor Who, and everyone dies on that show. So maybe, but in America, I don't really know how a family show works. Will they do that thing in a family show? Who knows?
I figure they have to, because these are big cogs. I mean, in the Cloak and Dagger machine, these are massive cogs and stuff like that. And if you start, it's like for all intents and purposes, translating from the comics to a series, this could be solid. You know what I mean? You're laughing. You got a lot of plot points. You got a lot of issues. You got grittiness. You got kind of a lot of kind of themes that you can deal with and translate. And I mean, if you start messing about with that, then it's like, ooh, you know what I mean? Because this is like a doozy, isn't it? You couldn't ask for any kind of better plot lines and stuff like that. It's like going to be so easy for them to do, you know what I mean, and do it quite well. But if you start kind of messing about with that because it's like a family thing, it's like, sorry, you picked the wrong thing. They must have known what they were getting into when they kind of picked the thing. So if they start kind of censoring it, as it were, then it's just going to be like, ooh, you know what I mean?
Maybe, but some concessions have got to be made for translating it to television. You can't just adapt the comic as it is. So, I guess it's just a question of what you drop and what do you keep. But yeah, from the sounds of it, it is ready-made for a TV show. Mm-hmm. I just question whether they'll let Cloak and Dagger themselves be killers. Like, the Punisher or Oliver Queen or something.
They next teamed up with Spider-Man to thwart the Punisher's murder attempt on the Kingpin when their activities became too damaging for the illegal drug trade. Some dealers kidnapped members of the New Mutants and tried to control them by injecting them with a drug similar to what gave Cloak and Dagger their powers. For a time, they lost their powers to the heroes Sunspot and Wolfbane, but retrieved them at a later date. They turned down an offer to join X-Men's school for the gifted youngsters. Kingpin wanted Dagger to heal his wife, but refused to help him. They also befriended the superpowered preteens, the Power Pack, twice aided the New Mutants. The duo eventually learned that they were mutants themselves, which is why they were the only surviving members of their drug test. Though they tend to target ordinary street criminals, they have faced diverse opponents such as Doctor Doom, the Beyonder, Vermin, the Zapper, the Disciplinarian, the Warlord of Kampuchea. Maybe not.
Say it with confidence.
Nah. Mephisto, Thanos, the Assembly of Evil, which is a great name, Firebrand and Lightmaster. Cloak and Dagger later battled Despair, learning he gave them their dark form and light form powers, which had been pieces of his soul which interfered with their natural mutations. So whether, they were going to mutate, their mutation abilities were going to be different, and as a result of them meeting with those bits of his soul, it changed it into those. Maybe they had other powers.
It's interesting if they are mutants, though. They were quite far along age-wise before their powers came along then.
Yeah, but you could say the same about that with Deadpool.
Well, Deadpool's not a mutant.
Whatever. In the Deadpool film, if you draw from that, then I mean that's pretty far off. I guess so, but then again, it's like obviously the trauma of the drugs thing. I mean, there's probably a lot of characters where their mutations ain't kicked in till whenever.
Yeah, I suppose Emma Frost and Beast got further transformations as they got older. So
yeah. Cloak died in the Infinity Gauntlet saga when he managed to pull Thanos into the Dark Force dimension, but Thanos let out a massive energy burst within him that resulted in his death. His life was restored when Nebula seized the gauntlet and undid most of these events. Let's talk powers. Tyrone acquired Despair's Dark Force, which gave him dark form, which gave him the ability to create an aperture into the Dark Force dimension and to dispatch people into the dimension. He also gained the abilities of intangibility and teleportation of himself and others through the Dark Force dimension. Being intangible appears to be a partial act of will, as when Cloak was rendered unconscious in a fight with his opponents, they were able to kick him physically rather than pass through him. Cloak feels a constant hunger which can only be assuaged by feeding on either light projected by Dagger or light consumed from his victims, which are dispatched into the dimension of darkness. He later develops better control of hunger. Tandy has the ability to create psionic light daggers which travel wherever she wills them, and which drains living beings of vitality when struck. Her light daggers also have the capacity to cure certain persons of drug addictions, and can alleviate Cloak's hunger for light, which simultaneously allows her to avoid being overcharged. And at one point they did swap powers, but it was restored after getting a cure from Mr. Negative or whatever. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about Cloak and Dagger, really. Obviously they've popped up in other comics for like runs, but really they're just guest starring appearances. They've had a fair amount of interaction with some real big villains, and obviously Spider-Man as well. So I mean, in terms of I mean, you could claim X-Men as well, the New Mutants and stuff like that. So whether, and the Runaways. So whether these TV shows, really, it would have been better if like one studio got these Runaways and the New Mutants, so then they could kind of mix something up a little bit there.
Well, New Mutants is,
A
you know, obviously that's an X-Men thing, isn't it? So that would never cross over. But who has the Runaways? Does Marvel have the Runaways? They still have that? I think they do.
I can't remember which studio's doing it, because I think Freeform's got the new.
Yeah, because Freeform's ABC, so obviously Marvel still have that.
Yeah, they've got the New Warriors and Cloak and Dagger. I'm trying to think who has the Runaways.
Hulu. But I don't know, like, my question is then who owns the rights?
Who's got Gifted then? Fox has got Gifted, so...
Yeah, if Fox had the X-Men, so whatever X-Men thing's going to be on there.
I wonder if they're going to be able to actually claim them as mutants, or whether they're going to glaze over that.
Cloak and Dagger? Don't know.
No, they just got the powers from despair.
Yeah, if they're going to do anything, they'll be what Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are, like, you know, miracles or some crap, some that, or Inhumans. I suppose is a bit of thing.
Enhanced beings.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not metahumans. So yeah, I'm Sam.
I'm Matt.
And that is everything you need to know for the upcoming Cloak and Dagger, and just a little bit more, because that's how we do. We treat you. You're welcome.